clarity of purpose. It has 4 pieces. I don't have time to go through a lot of it, but you got to be able to answer the question, why now? Why is this the moment? I took a group through this process. They came up with 35 reasons. They put them into 9 categories. They rank ordered them. I said, somebody asks you why, you don't have time to tell them all that. You can only have 3 points. Communications experts will tell you that. You can only answer a question with 3 things. After that, people forget the first 3 and don't hear the rest of them. But they were the client and they wanted 4, so they kept 4. I said, still too many words. And they finally got it down to 4 words. Every time somebody in the organization was then asked after the fact, why are you doing this? They said, well, we're starting this business because it fits our mission. If we don't do it, we're not going to survive because our other sources are being cut off. We've got a huge market opportunity, and if we do it, it'll be our money, and the grant makers can't tell us what to do with it. That became the engine for the next 18 months to drive all the planning that they did, and they had clarity of purpose. Vision and mission statements, which are conflated and confused by everybody. A vision is how you want the world to change. A mission is what you're going to do to bring about that change. Look what happened with one of the organizations we dealt with. There was a vision statement. We're a nationally recognized, compassionate organization offering quality human services through disciplined growth and community partnerships. Got any idea what they do? Not a clue. Well, maybe their mission will tell us what they do, huh? Okay. Well, we enhance quality of life by providing comprehensive services that empower people to maintain their independence and dignity. I didn't make these up. I see others like these all the time. So we worked with these guys for a while. There was that original vision statement with all those words in it. And eventually this is the vision statement they came up with. We envision a world in which people grow older with dignity, control their destinies, and live independently as long as possible. And now we can start grabbing onto that vision. We can start sharing it, right? And then here was that original mission statement. Now the mission statement, what they're going to do to bring about the change. Our mission is to be the state's premier provider of early onset Alzheimer's care for individuals and their families. That's the business they always had been in, but it wasn't. So a vision, if it's inner directed about what you want to become as an organization, you're not starting with the people you serve. You're starting with your own ambitions, and who cares? Ultimately, who cares? A vision statement has to inspire people to change the world and be a call to action that mobilizes quantum leaps, opens hearts and wallets. But they won't be inspired by a vision that's inner directed, that's about your organization rather than about the people you're going to serve. One of my favorites. We envision the day when everyone in the world can take a safe drink of water. Is there anybody who can't get behind that? Core values. The 3 or 4 things that you will never swerve from no matter what happens, no matter what. It's something you'll do no matter what. You choose it. It's not forced on you. You do it all the time, everywhere in the work, all the time, and it gives you pride. Ronnie Brooks will come in. She'll help spend a week with you trying to figure that stuff out. 3 or 4 core values. And I'm going to skip over some of these, but you can get the slides later if you really want to learn more about this stuff. And the definitions of success before you start. What are going to be your social and your financial outcomes, and they have to be quantified. You're the only one who knows what the word sufficient means. Bill Norris, the guy I told you about at Control Data, when he was a kid, he worked in his grandfather's apple orchard. And every year the town people would come out with empty bushel baskets, you know, and fill up with apples and then pay for them. Well, the trouble was they brought their kids with them. And the kids would start stealing apples and throwing them at each other. And Norris's grandfather would come roaring out of the house and read those kids out for wasting even 1 apple. And Bill never forgot that lesson. 15 years later, he was second in command of the entire United States code-breaking effort, the Allied code-breaking effort in the Second World War, in the war against Japan. And he saw the Allies throw everything into it, all the money, the time, the expertise, the people, the facilities, and they broke the code. Shortened the war in the Pacific by 6 to 9 months. He never forgot that lesson. When he started Control Data Corporation in 1957, every time Control Data wanted to buy something that cost $50 or more, Bill required his personal signature on the purchase order because he knew the value of every single apple. Now, his second in command told me they bought a lot of $49 filing cabinets during those years, but the point holds. But also, in the first 10 years of the company, He bet the company 3 times. He threw it all into the pot because he knew that's what sufficient meant. Only you know what it means for you. This one saddens me because I work with a lot of organizations that plan this and talk about it and do the research and the feasibilities and get ready to go, and then they pull back. They lack the personal or the institutional courage or commitment. You're going to have to take that leap at some point. And you better find out early in the game whether you have the moxie or not. You all know what market pull is, but we have to emphasize it here just for a minute. If you start with your products or services and then go looking for customers, you're trying to push your way into a marketplace. If it's something nobody's ever done before, that's the only option you have, but we call it market development then. The better way is market pull. Start with the people you're going to serve, figure out what they want, and then design whatever you've got to fit their needs. And they'll pull you into the marketplace. If you go back to your site tomorrow and start trying to convince yourself or somebody else you've got a good idea for a social enterprise, you probably don't. Because it won't take convincing. It'll be pulling you. Now, it may not be a good idea for your organization. That's what you'll have to figure out. But it'll pull you. It'll give you, you can get rid of 90% of the ideas just by remembering the differences between those two. Always start with them, not with your organization or your products or services or what you're doing now. My clients think I harangue them about this too much, and they say, we get it, Jerr, we get it, stop hammering us about this. And a month later I come back and all they're talking about is our plan, our strategy, our staff, our budget, our building, our problems. It's all inside out again instead of outside in. Market pull is what the name of the game is. You've got to be willing to plan. It doesn't have to be a turgid experience. Just a few things at the front end. Ask for help, not from people like me. If you're going to do this, go find 3 or 4 men and women in your community who have built their own businesses from the ground up and are successful social entrepreneurs, and get them to come in to advise you on a regular basis because they have a reality check that will be invaluable to anything you attempt to accomplish. Put one person in charge of the planning process. Don't make it a team or load level it. You can put a team behind the person, but give one person that accountability and responsibility. Make sure everybody knows what the vision and the mission and the core values and the long-term goals are, because half the people on your planning team don't know anything about you. You've brought them in from the outside. I used to tell people to lower their expectations because I knew how hard this was going to be. Too many of them have come back to me in later years and said, you were wrong, Jerr. We're changing the world now. So tell them to raise their expectations. Let yourself be stupid. Let things play with you for a while before you discard them entirely. Sometimes that's the way the best ideas come about. And don't skip steps in the traditional business planning process. You've got to do feasibility studies. You've got to create strategic frameworks. You've got to have a marketing plan, etc. Also, stop trying to be all things to all people. We're back to that learning how to kill programs thing again. You've got to have a niche mentality. And it's something that is so hard for us to do because we came into this field to help people and people need help, so we start programs. And then we've got too many programs and nobody's getting the best from us. So you decide, what are you going to be great at? What are you going to be world class at instead of just another nonprofit trying to fight this problem? Because if you stop doing this and become great at that, I guarantee you somebody else is going to come along and be great at that. But if you're both trying to do both of them, neither one of you is going to be great. So be a player or don't play at all. Be number 1 or number 2 in your field. And to do that, you have to know something about your competition, right? So this is a parable I'll be telling in South Africa next week as well. It's one of their parables. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up and knows it has to run faster than the fastest lion or it's going to be killed. Same morning, lion wakes up and knows it has to outrun the slowest gazelle or it's going to starve to death. So the fact is, it doesn't matter whether you're a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. Competition has been a dirty word in the nonprofit sector for way too long. And Nick said it this morning, and I think Rob said it too. Competition is a good thing. And you're going to need to compete in order to win, in order to serve the people that you want to help. And that's the bottom line. So we're nearing the end here. This is a tough one. Aggressive pricing. I got to tell you, in the for-profit sector, there's a 50% gross profit margin among service companies. in order to have a 3 to 5% net margin at the end of the year. But in the nonprofit sector, we think we've died and gone to heaven if we get a cost-plus contract. But it's all unit costs. There's no annualized cost built into that. At the end of the year, you're in the red. So we've got to somehow convince our buyers to pay us on an annualized basis. And sometimes it's going to mean turning down contracts, because you possess the single strongest word in the English language. It's only got 2 letters in it. The first letter's N and the second letter's O. And if you start turning down some of this stuff, you may lose a few contracts, but you'll be better off for it. And eventually you will educate these folks. And you're going to have to build the right team. 6 out of 7 enterprises started by the graduates of the Harvard Business School succeed. But it's not because they're any smarter than any of us. 4 out of 5 small businesses fail in the first 3 to 5 years because they don't know what these guys know. They know how dumb they are. And they create teams of people who complement their strengths. When those 2 friends and I went to California, we all knew how to do the same thing. And we figured if we did more and more of that, we could be successful. Well, phooey, that doesn't work. You've got to have a team. And you've got to have the entrepreneur, who has been a proven entrepreneur somewhere else, which means you're probably going to have to go recruit them from somewhere else, and somebody who's been an entrepreneur in the industry that you're going into. And there's more to say about that, but we don't have time. 2 more, 3 more. Building strategic partnerships, we're not going to talk about that much, but nobody goes it alone anymore, whether it's a distributor, a supplier, a joint venturer. Strategic partnerships are a critical part of this. How many of you listen to Garrison Keillor on Prairie Home Companion ever? And he talks about the pretty good stuff. Too many people are waiting for the perfect plan or the perfect time to start these things or the perfect staff. And folks, they don't exist. None of those exist. But if you can get a pretty good business plan and a pretty good staff and a pretty good market opportunity and go for it, if you do something, you might have a shot at it. You might fail, but you'll learn something and you'll try do something else again. You got to remember this principle, the NOAA principle. You don't get any prizes anymore for just predicting rain. You only get a prize if you build an ark. You guys got to go out and build those arks. So, the last critical factor, the others were just a way to shape in the field of play. This one essentially says when the entrepreneurial moment arrives and grabs you, you got to do whatever you got to do to make it happen. Flexibility is the name of this game too. There are no ultimate rules in any of this. So, things turn out best for those who make the best of the way things turn out. That's what entrepreneurship, that's what social entrepreneurship is all about. And the 14 deadly sins are just the reverse of the ones that I was telling you about as we went through this. In closing, just a few words from my grandson, who always likes to come along, and would like to share with you his dreams and hopes for you. He would like you to care more than other people think is wise, and I suspect you all do, or you wouldn't be here. He would like you to risk more than other people think is safe. He'd like you to dream more than anybody else thinks is practical. And he'd like you to expect more than others think is possible. And as for me, what's my hope for you? I want you to get out there and screw something up. 2 meanings of that word. I want you to try something and have it fail and learn from it and then do something that works. But I also want you to disrupt the status quo. Screw it up. Maybe get some other people thinking and change the world. Don't quit. Don't quit until the miracle happens, because it's coming, folks. It's coming. Thank you so much.